Welcome to Bicycle Touring Talk, episode 87. My name is George Schlackheg.
The one and only.
This video is the continuation of the series Bicycle Tour Canada Coast to Coast. I did such a tour in 2017 and talk about it here. In the last episode, I had veered off the Trans-Canada Highway to ride roughly 340 kilometers across remote wilderness just east of Wawa. There were no services available on that stretch, and I did this simply because the Trans-Canada Highway didn't feel safe enough for cycling. The scenic route also had its risks, of course. But overall, it seemed like the better option. Tuesday, July 11th, 2017, I woke up early in my tent in the middle of nowhere and packed up the campsite almost right away. Thankfully, the tent was fairly dry, making this easy. My campsite had no place to sit down, but I was hopeful that I might find a picnic table somewhere along my way to sit down for a breakfast. As it turned out, that was wishful thinking. After about 30 kilometers, I eventually set up my little stove on a guardrail right by the road to make coffee and prepare a sandwich. Yeah, I just had my breakfast on a guardrail. The only thing available. There were two provincial parks along my way, and I considered using them for my lunch break. I wasn't hungry yet when I passed the first one, which had a sign that identified it as a fishing and hunting and hiking park. The second one was called The Shoals. By the time I reached that, I really wanted a place to sit down and eat lunch, but the gate was closed. I snuck my bike in underneath it to see if I could find a picnic table. Once again, I was disappointed. The entrance to the park looked almost spooky. Yeah, it's almost freaky. This is the Shoals Provincial Park, and it looks like it's all abandoned. There's nothing newer than 2012 on this board here, and the building is nailed shut. It had been abandoned around 2012, 5 years earlier. I went back to the gate and used it to lean my bicycle while at least having a snack. It was a very long and lonely ride through beautiful country to reach Highway 129, which went straight, while 101 turned left toward the town of Chapeleau. I had the option to ride the 11 kilometers into town, to stock up on water and perhaps have a longer break, but decided against it. It would have added 22 kilometers to my total trip and potentially delayed me by a whole day. At that point, I was doing okay with my reserves and felt ready to go for a long ride on Highway 129. There was a clearing near the intersection of the two highways where some construction materials were stored. This is where I had my lunch, which consisted of a couple of sandwiches and some wild strawberries I found. I finally found my lunch spot. It's not quite a picnic table, but it'll do. I would like to cook a warm meal, but I'm not going to because I've got about 3-4 liters of water, and I want to wait until I'm
able to top this up, you know, fill up all my reserves, or until I know I'm close, because the cooking the noodles takes water, and then rinsing the pot does too. So I'm going easy on that. And I made a discovery for dessert. Just over there, there's a patch of wild strawberries, and wow, they're so good.
Highway 129 looked to be even more deserted than the 101. But I actually bumped into a cyclist on a mountain bike. He asked me about my ride, and I told him what I was up to. We talked for a few minutes. He told me there was a little gas station with a convenience store about an hour away. That sounded pretty good, but the hours he was referring to were car hours, not bicycle hours. A short distance further, this was confirmed by a sign: no gas for 120 kilometers. It also meant that it was significantly more than an hour, even by car, unless speeding, which actually seemed quite common here. I ran into a string of construction areas shortly after. That had me second guessed picking this route in the first place, but it turned out to be nothing like the construction I had encountered west of Wawa. I had some minor delays, but soon the road was very quiet again. Almost a complete cycling paradise for many kilometers at a time. I went for another 80 kilometers on this Highway 129, climbing some long and fairly steep hills in the process. The weather didn't look so good, almost like it was getting dark already. Way too early. Then I found my favorite camping spot. It had lots of space for my tent, a fire pit, and a lake. That seemed almost too good to be true, and it was reason for me to call it a day. I had ridden 177 kilometers and estimated that this would have put the Trans-Canada Highway near Iron Bridge within a day's reach. The campsite turned out to be infested with horseflies, and they were hungry for blood. I got bitten a gazillion times despite applying enough Moscal to make me feel woozy. The best remedy was to make a fire. There was plenty of dead wood to burn, and it was dry. I went for a swim in the lake, which felt fantastic after not taking any showers since marathon 3 days earlier. I later cooked dinner on the fire as it slowly got dark around me. Aside from the occasional vehicle passing on the highway that was far enough away from my sight, it was eerily quiet. I was happy. My camping was free, and it was way nicer than most official campgrounds I've ever seen. I had noodles and chili cooked with water from the lake. After supper, I even boiled a pot of water to add to my drinking water supply, which was down to about 3 liters. I stayed by the fire until my swimming shorts were dry, and then settled into my tent. Shortly after, I heard the rain start, first mistaking it for flies hitting my tent. At this point, I didn't really worry about it, thinking that it would stop soon enough. I don't like riding in wet weather, but inside the tent it didn't bother me. I had at least a full day of riding ahead of me to get back to civilization, or the town of Iron Bridge. What do you think? Was I gonna have to do this in the rain? What would be the alternative? Well, so far my ride in remote northern Ontario had been amazingly smooth. It got me taking that for granted. What could possibly go wrong? You know the drill, as I'll be back with the continuation of this story. I hope you'll be here too. Thanks for your thumbs up and sharing the video, and I'll see you soon.